Mika, what are we looking at right now?
Live pictures of Venezuela's leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. They have a court appearance this morning, and the process has begun. We're watching live pictures right out of New York City of this playing out. And as we do that, Ambassador Story, to Jonathan Martin's point, tell us a little bit about what Nicolas Maduro leaves behind and what this country now has to deal with in running Venezuela. This is a violent country with a host of its own problems. What's it going to take?
Yeah, good morning. First, I want to say that I'm personally, and I believe the Venezuelan people are glad to see Nicolas Maduro gone. Unfortunately, there's some pretty bad actors who have been left behind, Diosdado Cabello being the chief among them. Were I to give advice to the administration, I would be speaking with Delcy Rodriguez now about releasing the 900-plus political prisoners in the country, releasing wrongfully detained Americans. And certainly there was an election last year, and that election was won by Edmundo Gonzalez. And if we are in a position to be, quote, running Venezuela, then I think it's Maria Corina Machado can go back and re-energize the democratic opposition in the country, which obviously is reeling from a decision to allow Delcy Rodriguez to now be leading Venezuela. You've got big problems there. This is a country riddled with illegal armed groups. You've got the FARC and ELN from Colombia, allegedly Hezbollah elements also from Iran. It was quite clear that the Cubans were involved in protecting Maduro and providing intelligence. 32 of them, according to the Cuban government agency, died during this attack. So there's a lot to get done. And Delcy, while she struck Delcy Rodriguez, the acting president, while she struck a more conciliatory tone last night, came out swinging pretty strongly. So she's got her own internal struggles between Vladimir Padrino Lopez, who runs the military, Diosdado Cabello, who runs the security services and the colectivos, the gangs, and is in bed with the FARC and ELN. And so she has domestic concerns, and now we're going to be telling her what to do. So I think this is going to be a difficult moment. As everybody's saying, now the hard part starts.
Mr. Ambassador, did you have any sense of the resistance that could arise on the ground within Venezuela after this warrant-serving process took place?
Well, it's a great question. I've said for many years now that Venezuela is a failed state. I called Maduro the mayor of Fuerte Tiuna, where he lived. You've got illegal armed groups across the territory. I don't know to the extent to which there's going to be an internal struggle here, but if the idea, the concept is that somehow the oil industry will boom and that will redound positively for Venezuela, for the region, for the United States, there's some fundamental questions that have to be answered. What about the stability and security, which you're alluding to now? And also, what about rule of law and the independence of the judiciary in the country? If it's the same regime with a different head, then it really calls into question whether or not the boardroom of a publicly traded company will make a decision to go in and invest in Venezuela. I'm doubtful. Let's see how this plays out, of course, but the sooner they get to a new set of elections, perhaps, the sooner they allow political prisoners to be released and wrongfully detained Americans, the sooner we see some opening in the democratic space, the better for that future.
Let me ask you, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you so much for being with us today. Of course, 2003 created just an extraordinarily dangerous power vacuum in Iraq, and Sunni insurgents filled that power vacuum. Shia militia filled that vacuum. You had basically the forerunner to ISIS in Zarqawi filling that horrible vacuum. We certainly hope that does not happen in Venezuela, but you know Venezuela far better than most of us here. I'm wondering, since parallels are being drawn with Iraq and what happened after Iraq, because that's what we've been suffering under for the past 20 years, the mistakes of Iraq. Are there parallels? Are there power vacuums that may be exploited by very bad actors? Or could this end up more positively for America and for, most importantly, the Venezuelan people?
Well, I discount the idea that this can become another Iraq or Libya or Afghanistan or Syria for a few fundamental reasons. One, you don't have ethnic differences, you don't have sectarian differences. In fact, Celia Flores and members of the Democratic opposition went to school together. A lot of them are first cousins. You find some very strange bedfellows when you're looking at the political elite on both sides of the spectrum in Venezuela.
So Mr. Ambassador, that sounds positive. What about drug gangs? Is there a fear that drug gangs may go and fill that void? Are they powerful enough to do that like they've been before in Mexico or Colombia, or do you believe they can be knocked out of play?
Well, we can't go through a de-Baathification process. You need a strong military and security service inside of Venezuela to handle that particular problem set, of course. The country is riddled with these gangs. I think the closest example is Panama, where even after Operation Just Cause, you had several months of, let's call it, score settling. But in that instance, we brought back in the president-elect to take his rightful place in Panama. In this instance, we're counting on Delcy Rodriguez to use the military to make sure that those drug gangs and other operators inside the country don't fill a power vacuum. In other words, there's not a power vacuum at present. My concern is the interplay between Delcy Rodriguez, Diosdado Cabello, and Vladimir Padrino Lopez. All of them have their own base of power. And Diosdado Cabello does not like Delcy and Jorge Rodriguez. That's very clear, has been clear for quite some time. He thought they had too much power. Will he attempt to use some of these gangs to undermine her if she gets too close to the United States? Probably, which is why leaving Diosdado Cabello was not an ideal outcome.
All right, former ambassador to Venezuela.
Thank you.
James Story, thank you so much. Please come back very soon.